Good morning, everyone. My topic is postmenopausal bleeding, women on anticoagulants. Previous speakers already mentioned about the menopausal bleeding that is really alarming, and we have to see the common causes as well as the chances that this postmenopausal bleeding can be due to endometrial CA. Approximately 10% of these cases they may be due to endometrial CA. However, with the increasing life expectancy, increasing cardiovascular morbidity of the growing proportion of elderly women, women are on long-term anticoagulant therapy and making their evaluation more complex. It is challenging also to know that if the bleeding is due to anticoagulant, it is really due to some other cause or it is due to that particular drug. So these are all the causes which has been already mentioned by the previous speaker, and I am focusing on the medication that is anticoagulants. Anticoagulants, these are the blood thinners, are medication that prevent the blood clot from forming or expanding and reducing the risk of stroke, heart attack and embolism, and they work by interrupting the coagulation cascade and are used to treat the condition like atrial fibrillation, deep vein thrombosis. Even in the women taking anticoagulant, postmenopausal bleeding is never considered normal. It must be evaluated to rule out serious causes, especially endometrial CA. Why it matters? Postmenopausal bleeding may be caused by something benign, but 10% may be due to endometrial CA, and that's why anticoagulant therapy may unmask sometimes the bleeding from underlying condition rather than it then cause it outright. So these are all the anticoagulants which we are using in our day-to-day practice whenever required. Some are oral and some are parenteral. Oral are vitamin K inhibitor, we all know warfarin, dicumarol, and direct thrombin inhibitors like zalamagatrin and dabigatrin, and commonly used factor Xa inhibitors are rivaroxaban and apixaban. Indirect thrombin inhibitor are in the category of unfractionized heparin, low molecular weight heparin and fondaparinum, and parenteral are direct thrombin inhibitor like hirudin and lipiridine. Now, what are the commonly used medical anticoagulants in practice? Most commonly vitamin K antagonists we are using, that is warfarin. And mechanism is inhibiting the vitamin K dependent clotting factors. Common indication are atrial fibrillation and mechanical heart wave. It requires INR monitoring. We see our direct oral anticoagulants are in the form of apixaban, rivaroxaban, and these are direct thrombin inhibitor, and they are not routinely requiring the INR monitoring. Then heparins are low molecular weight unfractionized enoxaparin, and the mechanism is potentiate antithrombin and inhibit factor Xa, and they given subcutaneously, safe in pregnancy. The common indications are bridging therapy or stopping warfarin. I am mentioning the type of drugs because we should know that in whom we are requiring the INR monitoring and whom we are not requiring. The other drugs are direct thrombin inhibitors and fondaparinum. So what are the various indications in which we are giving these anticoagulants to elderly postmenopausal women? Most commonly used are direct anticoagulants, direct oral anticoagulants, and these are first line in most of the older women, especially for atrial fibrillation and the patient who are presenting with the mechanical valve. Common agents are apixaban, and which is most commonly used in elderly women, followed by rivaroxaban. And why they are preferred in the postmenopausal women? Because no INR monitoring is required, a lower intracranial bleeding, fixed dosing is there, and convenient as for the longer therapy. The common indication in this group is non-valvular atrial fibrillation. Apixaban, one line is very important, is often preferred in elderly women due to overall lower risk of bleeding, better safety profile in the renal impairment, and lower GI bleeding. Others are vitamin K antagonists, but less commonly used, and heparin also used in a cancer-induced thrombosis. So what happened? What happened when the patient is taking an oral anticoagulant and there is an abnormal bleeding? We all know that there is an interruption in the coagulation. What is the pathophysiology of this postmenopausal bleeding in patient taking on anticoagulant? Postmenopausal bleeding in the women on anticoagulant results from interaction between the fragile postmenopausal genital tissue, and impaired hemostasis. Anticoagulation really create a bleeding de novo, as they usually exaggerate from an underlying lesion. Normal postmenopausal bleeding, normal endometrial changes in the postmenopause is that there is a decreased estrogen, there is endometrial thinning, there is fragile capillaries, and this create a mechanically unstable microvasculature. What happened? Hemostasis is a normal physiology. There is a normal clot formation, platelet plug, activation of clotting cascade, then there is a thrombin generation and fibrin destabilization. Anticoagulant interfere mainly with the step 3 and 4 of the coagulation cascade. So this is the way that they create a postmenopausal bleeding. There is impaired clot stabilization. The drugs such as apixaban, rivaroxaban, and warfarin inhibit thrombin or factor Xa, reduces fibrin formation and prevent stable clot formation. Even a minor vascular injury in the atrophic tissue create a prolonged bleeding. Then there is unmasking of the subclinical condition. That is, anticoagulant can reveal bleeding from atrophic endometrium, endometrial polyp, hyperplasia, endometrial CA, cervical lesion. This lesion exists first. Anticoagulant magnifies this bleeding. Then there is a supratherapeutic anticoagulation by warfarin. That is a specific mechanism with warfarin. Excess of INR more than 3 or 4, especially in the warfarin, reduce vitamin K dependent clotting factor, and this may cause a spontaneous bleeding without significant pathology. However, malignancy may still be excluded even if the patient is presenting with very high INR. Studies are showing that risk of anti-endometrial CA remains comparable to general postmenopausal population. Some data suggests that a slightly higher bleeding presentation in the anticoagulant user. No evidence is suggesting that anticoagulant increases cancer incidence. So how we proceed? We proceed by the clinical assessment. A good history taking is really important. Proper bleeding pattern, history of menopause, age of menopause, years is menopause, risk factor for endometrial carcinoma like obesity, diabetes, hypertension, nulliparity, tamoxifen use, family history, anticoagulant, what type of anticoagulant she is using, like she is using a common drug like apixaban, rivaroxaban or warfarin, and ask for the indication also, duration of therapy, dose changes and drug interaction. Proper good clinical examination is the key to make a good diagnosis. A general, abdominal, paravaginal, paraspeculum examination gives a lots of clue, like the previous speakers say, like atrophy, cervical polyps and cervical CA, bimanual examination and laboratory investigation, especially for these patients in the form of complete blood picture, PT, INR, RFT, LFT, coagulation profile, and if on warfarin, a good check on the INR, check for the supratherapeutic level. Even if the INR is high, endometrial evaluation is still required. The first line imaging by the TVS, and we have to see the endometrial thickness, and obviously the thickness depends on according to the guideline whether she is on tamoxifen or she is not on tamoxifen, that the cutoff is 4 mm. Other finding like polyp, fibroid, fluid, endometrial sampling is done by PIPL or hysteroscopy, and it's a gold standard. It is not contraindicated even in patient presenting on anticoagulant. How we are going to manage these patients? The core principle is a postmenopausal bleeding is malignancy until proved otherwise. Even if the patient is taking anticoagulant, anticoagulant may worsen the bleeding, but they do not replace proper gynecological examination and evaluation. Immediate assessment, if the patient is profusely bleeding, see for the vital signs of anemia. If unstable, hospitalization. And manage anticoagulant based on severity in the form of mild bleeding. If she is hemodynamically stable, spotting is there, continue anticoagulant, proceed with the evaluation in the form of transvaginal sonography, biopsy, monitor hemoglobin, do not stop anticoagulant routinely until bleeding worsen. But if she is present with a moderate bleeding or a severe type of bleeding, then we have to consider a temporary interruption. It is an individualized decision, investigate urgently, and severe bleeding, hospitalize the patient, hold the anticoagulant temporarily, IV fluid, blood transfusion, and urgent gynecological assessment. Reversal is really important, and if it is needed, we have to go for the reversal. Definitive management, obviously, for seeing what is the cause, maybe an endometrial atrophy, endometrial hyperplasia, evaluate accordingly, endometrial CA. then we have to do the oncology staging and go for the extended hysterectomy or adjuvant therapy if needed. Cervical polyp or lesion can be treated. Previous speaker very well mentioned about the endometrial polyp as well. Special consideration in the anticoagulant women: do not delay biopsy. It is not in contraindication to endometrial sampling. Balance thrombosis versus bleeding risk. Assess indication for anticoagulation, stroke, venous thromboembolism, and switching anticoagulant to one another. If recurrent bleeding, consider switching from some anticoagulant to the another. Studies are showing that switching from rivaroxaban to apixaban is really good. And various articles are showing that stop temporarily, go for some temporary treatment, but not for the long-term treatment. Like there's a controversy in using antifibrinolytic tranexamic acid. The guidelines are clearly saying if the patient is at the risk of venous thrombosis, then do not use. It's a contraindication to use tranexamic acid, but various studies are showing for the temporary relief, taking the risk-benefit ratio, we can use tranexamic acid and other modalities to hemodynamically making the patient stable. Follow-up to monitor hemoglobin, reassess bleeding, repeat imaging, multidisciplinary care is really important. So the key consideration are when the severe bleeding, discontinue anticoagulant, administered appropriate reversal agent, then we can restart the anticoagulant even 7 to 14 days after stabilization. Also take a detailed history, proper examination and proper evaluation. Now a few words regarding the reversal of anticoagulant induced bleeding. Reversal can be done, which is really important. It can be done by the prothrombin complex concentrate and recombinant factor 7. Also we can use a drug withdrawal. And the list is there, which we can use the drugs for the reversal of the anticoagulant. Reversal is usually indicated in the life-threatening bleeding, emergency surgery, severe overdoses. Supportive measures like stop anticoagulant, IV fluid, blood transfusion can be continued. Reversal for the vitamin K antagonist, anticoagulant warfarin reversal agents is vitamin K, phytonadione. And we can also use in these cases prothrombin complex concentrate in fresh frozen plasma. Direct reversal of direct thrombin inhibitors, anticoagulant like dabigatran, we can give a reversal agent of idazumab. It is always used in a life-threatening bleeding. Reversal of the factor 10 inhibitors like anticoagulant in the form of apixaban, rivaroxaban reversal agent are adenexadine alpha, and we can also use a platelet complex concentrate here. This study is showing that apixaban is safer anticoagulant. Various studies, various articles are showing that apixaban is a safer anticoagulant to be used in these elderly women in comparison to the rivaroxaban because of the stabilized plasma level in a BD dose. And the studies are showing that the rivaroxaban conferred higher abnormal uterine bleeding. Reversal of heparin, we all know, is protamine sulfate, and we can use a multidisciplinary team to manage because some patients, they are presenting with anticoagulant and they are oncology patient as well. So a multidisciplinary team is really important. Early diagnosis and management lead to significant favorable prognosis. Therefore, any postmenopausal bleeding promptly and appropriately evaluated through a comprehensive clinical examination and diagnostic study, including endometrial biopsy and imaging. Typically, management depends on etiology identified. Challenges in our scenario is a late presentation, inadequate follow-up, self-discontinuation of the anticoagulant. Many patients stop by themselves, fear of procedures, and lack of multidisciplinary coordination. My take-home message is postmenopausal bleeding is malignancy until proved otherwise. Anticoagulant may unmask pathology but are rarely the sole cause. Endometrial thickness more than 4 mm warrants biopsy. Never discontinue anticoagulant without risk stratification, and a multidisciplinary management improve outcome. Thank you so much.